300 people fell silent as I stood up. The crystal chandeliers of the grand ballroom at the Sapphire Resort cast a golden glow across stunned faces. My boss, Richard, had just finished his inspirational speech about loyalty and family values at Pinnacle Innovations. His champagne glass was still raised mid-toast when I cleared my throat. Nobody leaves Pinnacle, especially not during the annual company retreat. But I was about to change that. My name is Eleanor Wright, and 18 months ago, I was the rising star of Pinnacle Innovations' marketing department. Now I was about to burn every bridge I'd carefully built over 5 years, and I'd never felt more alive. The journey to this moment began on a Tuesday morning in February. I remember because it was raining, the kind of relentless downpour that makes you question your life choices as you sprint from the parking garage to the office building. My umbrella had turned inside out halfway there, leaving me looking like I'd gone swimming in my charcoal pencil skirt and white blouse. "Rough morning, Ellie." Sandra from HR gave me a sympathetic smile as I squelched past her desk. Sandra always noticed things. It was both her job and her nature. "Nothing a gallon of coffee won't fix," I replied, wringing water from my hair. I barely had time to dry off before my phone pinged with a message from my direct supervisor. "Valerie. Meeting in my office. Now." Valerie Davis had been my mentor since I'd joined Pinnacle. She'd plucked me from the entry-level marketing coordinator position and groomed me into the senior strategist I was today. I respected her more than anyone else at the company. When I entered her office, her expression told me something was wrong. Seriously wrong. "Close the door, Eleanor." She never called me Eleanor unless something was about to go sideways. "I'm being pushed out," she said flatly. "Richard is restructuring the department. He's bringing in someone from his old company." I sat down hard in the chair across from her desk. "What? They can't do that. You've increased our department's ROI by 43% this year alone." Valerie smiled tightly. "Apparently, Richard has a different vision for marketing, one that doesn't include me." She slid a folder across the desk. "Or the campaign we've been working on for the past 3 months." Inside was a completely different strategy for our biggest client, Helix Technologies. A strategy that looked suspiciously like what our competitors at Meridian Corp had pitched and failed with last year. "This is terrible," I said, flipping through the pages. "It completely misunderstands the client's brand positioning. Who came up with this?" "Meet your new boss." Valerie turned her computer screen to show me a LinkedIn profile. "Christopher Bennett, Richard's golf buddy from Ascendant Media." Christopher's smug smile stared back at me from his profile picture, Harvard MBA. Former strategic consultant at companies that always seemed to downsize shortly after his departure. "When does this happen?" I asked, my stomach nodding. "I'm out by Friday. Christopher starts Monday." "This is insane. We need to talk to Richard." "I already tried." Valerie's voice was resigned. "His mind is made up. But listen, Eleanor, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Stay, at least for a while. See what Christopher is really up to. Richard won't listen to me, but he respects you. If anyone can protect the team and our clients from whatever game they're playing, it's you." I nodded slowly, the weight of her request settling on my shoulders. "I promise." What I didn't know then was that I was making a promise I couldn't keep, not without losing a piece of my soul in the process. Monday arrived with Christopher Bennett's grand entrance. He swept into the office wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent, trailing the scent of expensive cologne and entitlement. "Team!" His voice boomed across our open office layout. "Gather round. New chapter begins today." My colleagues exchanged nervous glances as we formed an awkward semicircle around him. Our department consisted of 15 people, ranging from fresh-out-of-college graphic designers to veteran copywriters. All of us had thrived under Valerie's leadership. "I'm Christopher Bennett, your new marketing director. I've been briefed on your current projects, and I'm excited to bring a fresh perspective to Pinnacle Innovations." His eyes scanned the group, lingering a moment too long on Lily, our youngest team member, before settling on me. "And you must be Eleanor Wright. Richard speaks very highly of you. His handshake was firm, his smile practiced. Everything about him screamed corporate predator. Looking forward to working together. I lied. Excellent. I'll be meeting with each of you individually this week to discuss your roles and how they might evolve under the new structure. Eleanor, let's start with you. My office, 30 minutes. I spent those 30 minutes frantically reviewing our Helix Technologies campaign, determined to defend Valerie's strategy. When I walked into Christopher's office, formerly Valerie's space now stripped of all her personal touches, I was armed with data, case studies, and client feedback. He didn't even glance at my presentation. Eleanor, let me be direct. Your loyalty to Valerie is admirable, but misplaced. The old way of doing things at Pinnacle is over. With all due respect, sir, our old way of doing things has resulted in a 43% increase in numbers can be manipulated. He waved dismissively. Richard has brought me in to take this department to the next level. I need to know if you're on board with that vision. I'm on board with whatever serves our clients best, I replied carefully. Christopher leaned back in his chair, studying me. Good answer. Diplomatic. That's why I think you're exactly who I need as my second in command. That caught me off guard. Second in command. I'm creating a new position. Associate Director of Strategic Marketing, higher salary, more responsibility, direct line to the executive team. And what would that entail, exactly? Helping me implement the new direction, starting with Helix Technologies. He pushed a folder identical to the one Valerie had shown me across the desk. I need you to lead this pitch next week. I glanced at the proposal, the same flawed strategy. This approach contradicts everything Helix has told us about their brand identity. Helix doesn't know what they need. We do. That's why they hire us. His smile didn't reach his eyes. This is an opportunity, Eleanor. A significant promotion, but I need team players. The implication was clear. Get on board or get out. I'll review the materials, I said neutrally. Perfect. Oh, and I'll need the files for all of Valerie's client contacts and strategic plans for continuity purposes. And there it was. He wanted access to Valerie's client relationships she had spent years building. Of course, I'll need to organize them first. By end of day would be ideal. I spent the afternoon making copies of Valerie's most important files, not for Christopher, but for safekeeping. Something felt very wrong about all of this. That evening, I called Valerie from my car. He's after your client relationships, I told her, and he wants me to pitch that awful Helix campaign. With your name on it, she said knowingly. So when it fails, you take the fall. Exactly. But that's not all. He's offering me a promotion to essentially be his accomplice. Classic move. Identify the strongest person who might resist and either convert them or isolate them. She sighed. Be careful, Eleanor. These types of corporate raiders don't play fair. What should I do about Helix? Buy time. Tell Christopher you need to refine his approach. Then warn Philip. Philip Chen was our main contact at Helix, a straight-shooting CMO who had become a friend over the years of working together. The next day, I met with Christopher to discuss the Helix pitch. I've reviewed the strategy, I began, and I think we can strengthen it by incorporating some elements from our previous research. Christopher's eyes narrowed. The strategy is fine as is. With all due respect, Helix has explicitly rejected similar approaches in the past. If we want to win them over, we need to acknowledge their concerns about brand dilution. Are you refusing to present the pitch as written? I'm suggesting improvements that will make it successful. We stared at each other for a long moment before his face relaxed into a smile that didn't reach his eyes. That's why I want you on my team, Eleanor. That fighting spirit. Make your adjustments, but keep the core strategy intact. The pitch is next Tuesday. I nodded, recognizing the small victory. That afternoon, I called Philip under the guise of confirming the meeting details. Philip, I need to give you a heads up. There's been a change in leadership here. I heard about Valerie. Unfortunate. Yes. And the new director is pushing for a significant shift in your campaign direction. A pause. What kind of shift? The kind that looks remarkably like what Meridian pitched to you last year. You can't be serious. Philip's voice hardened. That approach completely misunderstood our market position. I'm doing my best to modify it. But I thought you should be prepared. I appreciate the warning, Eleanor. Very much. When Tuesday arrived, I presented a watered-down version of Christopher's strategy, enhanced with elements from our original campaign. Philip asked pointed questions throughout, making it clear he wasn't impressed. Christopher grew increasingly tense beside me. After the meeting, he cornered me in the hallway. What the hell was that? I presented the strategy as discussed, with refinements. You undermined me in there. I made the pitch viable, I corrected. Philip would have rejected the original version outright. You don't know that? I know Helix. That's my job. Christopher's face flushed with anger. Your job is what I say it is. From now on, you clear every client communication through me first. Over the next few weeks, Christopher systematically dismantled everything Valerie had built. He reassigned accounts, reshuffled teams, and introduced unnecessary approval processes that slowed our work to a crawl. Morale plummeted. I tried to shield my team as much as possible, but Christopher watched me like a hawk. He also began taking credit for my work in meetings with Richard and other executives. Then came the Bellwether Industries incident. Bellwether was a mid-sized manufacturing client that had been with Pinnacle for years. Their quarterly campaign was routine, nothing flashy, just solid work that delivered consistent results. Christopher decided they needed a fresh approach. These small accounts are bleeding us dry with their nickel and dime campaigns, he announced in our strategy meeting. We need to upsell them to a full digital transformation package. Bellwether doesn't need a digital transformation, I objected. Their audience responds well to their current marketing mix. Every company needs digital transformation, Christopher declared. Prepare a proposal, double their current spend, minimum. They don't have that kind of budget. We'll lose them. Then we lose them. We need to focus on bigger fish anyway. I went behind his back and called Sarah, my contact at Bellwether, warning her about the upcoming pitch and assuring her we could still deliver their regular campaign alongside any new proposals. The meeting was a disaster. Christopher presented an expensive, unnecessary strategy. Sarah politely declined. Christopher pushed harder. Sarah became uncomfortable. I intervened, offering our standard package with a few enhancements at the regular price. Sarah was relieved. Christopher was livid. You directly contradicted me in front of a client, he hissed after Sarah left. I saved the account, I countered. That wasn't your call to make. The next day, my access to several key client files was revoked. When I asked our IT department about it, they sheepishly informed me that Christopher had ordered the restrictions. I was being frozen out. That's when the rumors started. Whispers that I was difficult to work with. That I was undermining the new direction. That my loyalty to Valerie was clouding my judgment. Christopher had begun his campaign to discredit me. In a department meeting, he publicly questioned my strategies. When I presented data supporting my recommendations, he dismissed it as outdated thinking. He began excluding me from client meetings, then complained to Richard that I wasn't fully engaged. My colleagues, fearful for their own positions, began to distance themselves. All except Lily, the junior designer, and Robert, our veteran copywriter. This is insane, Robert muttered after a particularly frustrating meeting. He's deliberately sabotaging everything that works. But why? Lily asked. Doesn't he want the department to succeed? I had been asking myself the same question, and then I found the answer. Late one evening, I was working after hours when Christopher's calendar notification popped up on the shared conference room booking system. Meeting with Meridian Corp. R. Sullivan, Meridian Corp., our biggest competitor, and R. Sullivan, Ryan Sullivan, was their CEO. This couldn't be a coincidence. The next day, I called Valerie. Christopher is meeting with Meridian, I told her. Something's not right. Do you think Richard knows? I don't know. But I'm going to find out what's happening. I created a fake client meeting in the system and booked the conference room adjacent to Christopher's Meridian meeting. When the day came, I arrived early and left my phone recording in the room, hidden beneath a stack of portfolios. What I captured changed everything. Christopher with Ryan Sullivan, discussing not a potential collaboration, but a strategic acquisition. Meridian wanted to absorb Pinnacle's client list. They weren't interested in the company itself, just the clients. And Christopher was their inside man, deliberately destabilizing our client relationships to make them vulnerable for poaching. The Helix account is proving difficult, Christopher was saying. Their CMO is too close to the Pinnacle team. What about Bellwether? Ryan asked. Smaller, but stable. I've been pushing them away with aggressive upselling. They'll be looking for a new agency soon. Good. And the timeline? Another month should do it. I've isolated the troublemakers. The client exodus should begin any day now. And Richard has no idea? Christopher laughed. Richard thinks I'm his corporate savior. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be too late. I felt physically ill. This wasn't just corporate politics. This was sabotage. Deliberate destruction of the company I'd given 5 years of my life to. I took the recording straight to Richard's office, only to find his assistant clearing his calendar for the day. He's in meetings with the board all day, she explained. Budget discussions for the annual retreat next month. The retreat, the annual 3-day event where Pinnacle celebrated its successes and outlined future strategies. Where Richard gave his famous speech about loyalty and family values. I left a message asking for an urgent meeting the following day. That evening, I made copies of the recording and my evidence of Christopher's systematic dismantling of our client relationships. The next morning, Richard's assistant informed me he was too busy to meet. But he says Christopher can address any departmental concerns. I tried again the following day. And the day after that, Richard was always unavailable. Then I found out why. Christopher had been promoted to Vice President of Client Strategy, a newly created position that gave him oversight of multiple departments. When I finally cornered Richard in the hallway, his response stunned me. Eleanor, Christopher has expressed concerns about your resistance to change. I understand loyalty to former leadership, but Pinnacle needs to evolve. Richard, Christopher is deliberately sabotaging our client relationships. I have evidence. Evidence? Do you hear yourself? This sounds like a personal vendetta because he replaced your friend. Richard's tone was dismissive. The board fully supports Christopher's vision. I suggest you get on board, or consider whether Pinnacle is still the right fit for you. He walked away before I could respond. That night, I called Valerie again. Richard won't listen, I told her. And Christopher's been promoted. It's worse than I thought, she replied. I've been hearing from former clients. They're being approached by Meridian with insider knowledge of their accounts. We need to stop this. How? Richard won't listen, and the board is apparently backing Christopher. I thought for a moment. The retreat, it's in 3 weeks. Everyone will be there, the board, the executives, all department heads. What are you thinking? I'm thinking it's time to go public. Over the next 3 weeks, I gathered more evidence, emails, meeting recordings, client testimonials about Christopher's bizarre pushes to change successful strategies. I also prepared my exit strategy, updated my resume, contacted trusted colleagues at other agencies. And most importantly, I warned our key clients about what was happening. Philip at Helix was particularly receptive. I knew something was off, he said. The proposals have been increasingly bizarre, trying to push us in directions we've explicitly rejected. Meridian will approach you soon, if they haven't already. I told him. They have. Last week, with detailed knowledge of our marketing budget. When you leave Pinnacle, and I understand if you have to, please consider following me rather than going to Meridian. You're leaving. After the retreat, and I won't be going quietly. The retreat arrived. 300 Pinnacle employees gathered at the luxurious Sapphire Resort for 3 days of team building, strategy sessions, and recognition ceremonies. Christopher was the man of the hour, presenting his vision for the future in the opening session. I sat silently, watching my colleagues nod along to his empty corporate jargon, blissfully unaware that they were applauding their own demise. On the final night came the formal dinner and Richard's traditional speech. He stood at the podium, champagne glass in hand, waxing poetic about Pinnacle's family values and bright future under innovative leaders like Christopher Bennett. Together, we're building something that will last generations, Richard declared, because at Pinnacle, we're more than colleagues. We're family. The irony was suffocating. As applause filled the ballroom, I stood up. 300 people fell silent. Richard's champagne glass remained suspended mid-toast. Family doesn't betray family, I said, my voice carrying across the silent room. And that's exactly what's happening at Pinnacle right now. Richard's face darkened. Eleanor, this isn't the appropriate. I apologize for the interruption, Richard. But when exactly would be the appropriate time to address corporate sabotage? When half our clients have been poached by Meridian? When Pinnacle is forced to downsize because Christopher Bennett has successfully completed his mission to destroy our client relationships from within? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Christopher half rose from his seat, but I continued before he could speak. For those who don't know me, I'm Eleanor Wright, Senior Marketing Strategist. For 5 years, I've helped build Pinnacle's reputation for client-centered, effective marketing, and for the past 3 months, I've watched Christopher Bennett systematically dismantle that reputation. I held up a USB drive. I have evidence that Christopher has been meeting with Meridian Corp executives, deliberately destabilizing our client relationships to make them vulnerable for poaching after a planned mass exodus. The room erupted in shocked conversations. Richard banged his hand on the podium. That's enough. These are serious allegations with no basis in. I have recordings, Richard, emails, client testimonials. Christopher isn't here to innovate. He's here to destroy Pinnacle from the inside. Christopher was on his feet now, face contorted with rage. This is slander, Richard. Control your employee. I'm not his employee anymore, I announced, placing my company ID on the table. As of this moment, I resign from Pinnacle Innovations. I addressed the room at large. I've dedicated 5 years to this company, believing in its values and its people, but I cannot and will not be part of an organization that rewards betrayal and punishes loyalty. I turned to Richard. You refused to listen in private, so now you can hear it in public. Christopher Bennett is working for Meridian. Check his emails, listen to the recordings I've sent to each board member, talk to the clients he's been deliberately driving away. The silence was deafening as I picked up my purse. For those of you who still believe in ethical business practices, my contact information is in your email inboxes. I start at Horizon Partners next month. They value integrity and actual client service. I walked toward the exit, then turned for one final statement. Oh, and Philip from Helix Technologies asked me to inform you, Richard, that effective immediately, they are terminating their contract with Pinnacle. They'll be joining me at Horizon, along with Bellwether Industries, Carter Manufacturing, and Westlake Solutions. The chaos behind me was immensely satisfying as I pushed through the double doors and stepped into the night air. Valerie was waiting in the lobby. How did it go? She asked, though the commotion from the ballroom told its own story. Exactly as planned, I handed her the USB drive. Shall we? We shall. She smiled. By the way, Horizon Partners is thrilled about our client list. The managing partners are offering you a director position. Co-directors, I corrected. I'm not doing this without you. 6 months later, the Wall Street Journal ran a feature on the Pinnacle implosion. Christopher Bennett had been fired after an internal investigation confirmed my allegations. Richard had been forced to step down by the board. Meridian Corp was facing legal challenges for corporate espionage. Meanwhile, Horizon Partners had become the fastest-growing marketing agency in the region, with Valerie and me at the helm and a client roster that included not only the companies that had followed us from Pinnacle, but also several that had fled during the subsequent exodus. My resignation speech had gone viral within industry circles, becoming something of a legend. I'd received job offers from across the country, along with speaking invitations about business ethics and corporate courage. But the most satisfying moment came when I received an email from Lily, our former junior designer. "Pinnacle is falling apart," she wrote. "The new management is desperately trying to stabilize things, but the damage is done. Half the marketing department has left. Is that position still open at Horizon? Robert and I are ready for a change." I smiled as I typed my reply. "Family doesn't betray family. When can you start?" Sometimes, the best revenge isn't just walking away. It's taking everything you've built with you and creating something better. It's standing up in a room full of people who chose comfort over truth and showing them the cost of their silence. I never regretted quitting during that company retreat, right after my boss's speech about loyalty and family values, because I had remained loyal, not to a company that had lost its way, but to the principles that had once made it great. And in the end, that made all the difference.